In 1953, an unidentified and suspicious return appeared on U.S. military radar near Sioux Locks on the border of the U.S. and Canada between Lake Huron and Lake Superior. Whatever it was speeding across the sky at 500 miles per hour, and the Air Force scrambled an F-89C Scorpion interceptor to investigate. As it met the unidentified object on the radar screen, the American plane vanished. No trace of the Scorpion or its two pilots would ever be found. A mysterious radar return and disappearance. On the evening of November 23, 1953, a mysterious object appeared on the ground intercept radars of the U.S. Air Defense Command at Sault Ste. Marie in Michigan. The target was fast approaching the highly protected Sioux Locks, which were under control of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and still serves today to control vessel traffic between the lower Great Lakes and Lake Superior. Kinross Air Force Base was contacted so the unidentified radar return could be investigated, and an F-89C Scorpion jet was scrambled to intercept. The Scorpion was piloted by First Lieutenant Felix Eugene Moncla Jr., who had registered a total of 811 flight hours. His onboard radar operator and only other crew member was Second Lieutenant Robert L. Wilson. As they flew, Wilson reported that he struggled to track down the object because it kept changing course, and ground control had to step in to give additional directions over radio. The pursuit lasted 30 minutes, with the Scorpion giving chase at over 500 miles per hour. Ground operators eventually had them fly lower than 25,000 feet to only 7,000 feet to match the altitude of the unidentified object. The official report of the incident detailed that the weather conditions were not ideal. The Scorpion had a visibility of around 8 to 10 miles in the area, with, quote, moderate to heavy icing in all clouds. Furthermore, the report spoke of scattered snow that moved through the area, temporarily reducing visibility to 1 or 2 miles while in the snow. Yet the air was stable, and no turbulence was expected. As the operators from ground control stared at their radar, the dot representing the Scorpion approached the dot representing the unknown object. At an altitude of 8,000 feet, 70 miles away from Keweenaw Point, and 160 miles to the northwest of Sioux Locks, the Scorpion intercepted the radar return on screen. The radar operators stared attentively at their equipment, waiting for radio communication and confirmation, but the Scorpion was not to be heard from again. The two dots on the radar met and converged. Only one dot was left on the radar, as the radar return from the Scorpion unexpectedly vanished. As stated in the official report, quote, at approximately 23:52 Zebra, the last radio contact was made by the radar station controlling the interception. At approximately 23:55 Zebra, the unknown aircraft and the F-89 merged together in the radar scope. Shortly thereafter, the IFF signal disappeared from the radar scope. No further contact was established with the F-89. The official report also claims that, quote, the radar return from the other aircraft indicated it was continuing on its original flight path, while the return from the F-89 disappeared from the GCI station's radar scope. It's been reported, however, that the unknown aircraft actually soon vanished from the range of the radar at great speed, be it by flying off into the distance or flying upwards. Investigations and contradictions. The U.S. Air Force conducted a search and rescue effort with support from the U.S. Coast Guard and the Royal Canadian Air Force, but they came back empty-handed. There was no wreckage and no clues as to what had transpired. Worsening weather played a role in limiting more extensive search efforts. The only minor piece of evidence that the U.S. Air Force eventually uncovered came from another Scorpion pilot who gave testimony to the accident board that Moncla had activated his radio transmission briefly, directing it at him 40 minutes past the incident. The claim could not be confirmed, nor did it provide any helpful information. News of the incident was released to the public through the Associated Press, stating that the jet, quote, was followed by radar until it merged with an object 70 miles off Keweenaw Point in Upper Michigan. The unusually forthcoming statement made it clear they did not know what the object was. But later, the U.S. Air Force changed its tune. In a follow-up statement, they claimed the Scorpion had approached the unidentified flying object, which turned out to be nothing more than a Canadian C-47 plane off its course, flying over the Sioux Locks by accident. This version made it to the official report. Quote, the unknown aircraft being intercepted was a Royal Canadian Air Force Dakota C-47, serial number VC-912, flying from Winnipeg to Sudbury, Canada. At the time of interception, it was crossing northern Lake Superior from west to east at 7,000 feet. According to statements released before the report, the C-47 was prompted to change its direction, which it did, and the Scorpion dove into the lake on its return to the Kinross Air Force Base. Under these assumptions, it was officially reported that Lieutenant Moncla suffered from vertigo, or spatial disorientation, and that he, in all likelihood, crashed the plane into the lake. Contrary to these assertions, however, Canadian officials denied that their Air Force or any of their planes had been involved in the incident. They had no registered flights in the area that night. The Royal Canadian Air Force firmly refuted that the intercepted object was one of their planes. In response, the U.S. Air Force amended their statement on the matter once they released the official report. In it, they detailed that the Canadian pilot was not contacted at the time, but only after the fact. The amended report further clarified that the pilot had not been aware he was being intercepted and that he had not seen the Scorpion. This written account could not be corroborated against any Canadian records, and no pilot has come forth claiming to have been the one involved. This has made many believe that in fact no such Canadian pilot exists. To make matters even murkier, a 1973 book by Donald Kehoe, a retired Marine Corps major, investigated the incident, among other unidentified flying object reports, and claimed that officers from the Air Force gave Moncla's widow, Bobby Jean Coleman, two different versions of the event. Their first version held that Moncla had dived into the lake because he was flying too low, but their second version was that a malfunction made the jet explode at a high altitude. The second explanation contradicts both the official report's claims of the altitude at which the plane flew and the claim that a theoretical Canadian pilot somehow didn't notice the Scorpion. UFO theories. Due to the Air Force's inconsistent narrative and unsuccessful attempt at establishing an official sequence of events explaining what they reported as, quote, an accident, civilians across the United States drew their own conclusions. The Air Force's offered explanation as to why the Scorpion disappeared from the radar due to atmospheric conditions was also either ignored or scoffed at by members of the press and public. To many, it made no sense that the Scorpion would disappear due to a radar malfunction while the unidentified object remained visible on screen. If indeed at the bottom of the lake, reaching the crash site would be nearly impossible due to the depth of the water in the area and the lack of exact coordinates to the supposed accident site. With no wreck to be found, many civilian investigators have pursued their own theories as to what has come to be known as the Kinross UFO incident. One of these theories posits that the Scorpion and its crew could have been captured by an unknown craft in an experimental operation. Another theory suggests that the Scorpion may have impacted an unknown aircraft being tested in the area. These UFO theories were strengthened when in 2006, Adam Jimenez from the Great Lakes Dive Company reported to the media that he and his team had located the airplane wreck and a metallic section of a flying disc underwater. Hoax or secret? In October of 1968, a Sioux Daily Star article reported that two prospectors located the tail section and other aircraft parts possibly belonging to the lost Scorpion jet on the eastern shore of Lake Superior. In another article from the same publication, it was reported that U.S. Air Force Major J.H. Parker from the Kincheloe Air Base confirmed that at least a stabilizer, which was among the recovered parts, came from a military jet. After that confirmation, no more information on the origin of the aircraft parts was published. The Government of Canada has stated that it has no record of this discovery or the results that came with it. Then came the Great Lakes Dive Company claims of 2006. In August of that year, UFO researcher Francis Ridge received an email from Preston Miller quoting an Associated Press story that said the company divers had found the lost Scorpion jet. They claimed that the wreck was in the depths of Lake Superior, close to where the jet disappeared from the radar screen. Miller's email included a link to the Great Lakes Dive Company website. Ridge posted the email in relevant forums, prompting online curiosity. Reporters reached out to the company and were put in contact with their spokesman, Adam Jimenez. He spoke to multiple journalists and completed interviews, including one with UFO researcher Linda Moulton Howe for the nationally syndicated show Coast to Coast AM. Once again, the Kinross UFO incident had captured the public's attention. On their website, the company posted two images of the discovery taken from a side-scan sonar. These were fuzzy images showing an almost intact aircraft, easily identifiable, lying on the lakebed. Next to it was a teardrop-shaped metallic object, perhaps proof of an experimental craft. The mystery had been solved, or so some thought. Journalists and self-reported UFO experts began raising their concerns and poking holes in the claims. Jimenez was willing to talk about the discovery for non-presential viewers, but would not reveal details such as the vessel used, company details, or evidence of previous excursions. Some claims made by the company were straight-out falsehoods, such as a statement that blamed the Canadian government for blocking further surveying of the crash site, which was impossible because no one had ever even requested to survey that particular area. Deeper investigations found no previous history of the Great Lakes Dive Company, and the director of the Association for Great Lakes Maritime History said he had never heard of the group, nor had any of his associates. The only contact information ever given by the company was the email address and cell phone of Adam Jimenez. When his name was inputted in databases in search of biographical data, no related results came out. A subsequent investigation by the MUFON, an international UFO research civilian organization based in the US, concluded that the Associated Press story was fake and had been drafted by Preston Miller, if he even existed. In-depth investigations seemed to conclude that Adam Jimenez did not exist, and neither did the Great Lakes Dive Company. Only 3 weeks after claiming the discovery, the company's website vanished from the internet, and Adam Jimenez dropped all correspondence, his cell phone disconnected. On the other hand, Brendan Baylod, director of the Association for Great Lakes Maritime History and a Great Lakes shipwreck hunter, has stated that the side scan images are authentic, albeit either made with a tow fish rather than a fish finder, or closer to the surface than the 500 feet or 150 meters claimed by Jimenez. The scan was never linked to an actual location.